Alright, this is a story called New Snow by SKDA Gamer. The summary is, snow is rare in Warfang, and for the first time in 5 years, the city has become covered in snow. Spyro and Cinder treat their 3-year-old triplets to their first ever day in snow, showing them games to play and other enjoyable activities. One shot. Spyro opened his eyes slowly, wincing at the bright yet soft light that was shining through the window into the room. He let out a tired moan before he yawned, curling up even tighter in bed, snuggling up against Cinder's side to share body heat. They had 2 decently thick blankets on, and yet it was still cold. This winter has been one of the coldest ones they've had in a very long time, and even Spyro, with his ice helmet, now attuned to the cold after 13 years of practice, still felt the chill of the lower temperatures. He sighed with content as he leaned into Cinder, nuzzling her and causing her to hum happily in her sleep. The 26-year-old mates reveled in each other's warmth, not wanting to move away from it, but Spyro knew they had to get up. Spyro always woke up late in the day, so it was always Cinder that would wake him up before he could get that far into the deep sleep. It was rare when Spyro woke up before Cinder, but since he was awake, he knew the day had already begun. Especially since they had 3-year-old triplets that got into a lot of mischief whenever they woke up before their parents did. Reluctantly, Spyro turned to Cinder and shook her, whispering her name gently. Cinder. Cinder, it's time to wake up, he whispered. She groaned before she opened her eyes, looking up at him. This is rare, she said groggily, a lazy smile pulling at her lips. The great lazy Spyro is up before me. Yeah, you don't have to make fun of me for it, Spyro chuckled. Anyway, we should probably get up. You know how kids get before we wake up. Cinder just mumbled in agreement, before yawning and stepping out of bed, stretching out like a cat as she splayed her paws in front of her. Spyro chuckled before getting himself out of bed, yawning again and blinking savagely to wake himself up. The purple dragon was the first one to make his way out of his room, towards his kids' room, Cinder following. They checked on their 3 kids, and to their surprise, they were all still asleep. The 3-year-old triplets all lay snoring, curling up around each other to share body warmth. Weidra, the wind dragoness and the eldest by 2 minutes, lay on the outside, her head resting on her younger brother Corey's abdomen as he slept under her. Their earth dragon slept soundly, holding their youngest brother close to his chest. The electric dragon, Exorin, was the youngest by 5 minutes, snuggling up into Corey's chest. Exorin was pretty small, being the runt of the litter, and having some very delayed growth patterns. Weidra and Corey were pretty protective of him because of that, looking out for their youngest brother who had struggled to get out of his egg. Exorin was definitely a fighter though, and ended up being a very energetic little boy despite his small size. Spyro bent down to his 3 children and whispered softly, "Good morning, sleepyheads. Time to wake up." Sleepyheads? Cinder chuckled. That was you this morning, not me. Spyro retaliated quickly before focusing back to waking up his kids. Wake up, little ones. As he tried to coach them out of their sleep, he lowered his head further and touched his muzzle to his daughter. Weidra groaned in her sleep, pawing at the air. He tried again, pushing her a bit. She protested once more. Before Spyro gave her another gentle push, on the 3rd push, she finally came to, opening her eyes grumpily, letting out a massive yawn. Daddy, I'm tired, Weidra complained. It's daytime, honey, Cinder said softly as Spyro turned to wake up Corey and Zorin. It's time to get up. But I don't want to, Weidra replied with a huff. It's quite late, Weidra. Your father was the first one to awake, and you know that means it's late, Cinder explained sternly as Spyro finally coaxed Zorin awake. Now you get up. The day's already well underway. But it's cold. I don't want to get up, Zorin murmured. If you get yourself moving, you'll get warmer, Cinder replied with a chuckle. Get those muscles working. Fine, Weidra muttered, picking herself up and stretching like a cat, yawning. Zorin yawned before he stood up too. At this point, Corey had only just been woken up, grumbling as he caught the last bit of Cinder's conversation to the little Earth Dragon's brother and sister. With some coaxing, Spyro and Cinder finally got their tired children down to the kitchen before Cinder began to make some breakfast. She decided to make pancakes, a delicacy introduced to dragon culture by the moles. Not many dragons liked it, but Spyro and Cinder had both picked up a craving for them, and their children had received it too. The 2 mates were confused as to why their children were so tired and flat, as they are known to be extremely loud and spirited. especially Zoran. What's wrong, guys? Spyro asked while Cinder lit up the stovetop with her shadow fire. Where's the energy you're so well known for? It's not there, Zoran slurred, lying his head down on the table with a thud. It left us. Any reason why? No, the energy just didn't feel like being in us, Zoran muttered before putting his paws over his eyes. Spyro stepped forward and removed Zoran's paws from his eyes. Before lifting the yellow whelpling's head off the table, all three of them were wrecked, and he felt he knew why. What time did you all go to bed? Spyro asked, raising his eyebrow. I don't know. I can't read the clock in our room, Zoran protested. Rager can. Do you know what time it was when you went to bed? Spyro questioned. Wajdra moaned. Past midnight, I think? Wajdra, we agreed not to tell him that, Corey protested. Yeah, but Dad asked, and we should tell him the truth, Wajdra shot back. Thank you, Wajdra. But what were you doing up past midnight? Spyro inquired. We were talking, Corey muttered. Talking about what? I don't remember, Zoran groaned. Spyro, leave them. They're just kids. I'm sure you and Sparks would have mucked around and stayed up late at their age too, Cinder scolded at Spyro from the stove. Yeah, but it was mainly Sparks' fault. I was trying to get him to go to sleep, Spyro protested gently. No excuses, Spyro. They'll know it's a silly idea to go to sleep that late from being too tired to play out in the snow today, Cinder said, looking out the window beside the stove. Snow? Spyro said with a shock, stepping towards the window to have a look out. It snowed last night? Yeah, it sure did. What? Snow? Corey asked his parents. Come and have a look. All three of you, Spyro said, and the three younglings all made their way to Spyro, climbing onto his back as he lowered himself down for them. Before he raised himself up so they could see out the window, their jaws dropped at the brilliant white cover on the ground as they saw it for the first time. Snow was extremely rare in Warfang, so even Spyro and Cinder were excited to see it. That is snow, he explained with the children gasped in awe. It's little tiny ice crystals that settle on the ground. Ice? Like your element, Daddy? Corey asked. Yes, Corey, but it's not hard like the massive clumps of ice I create. Like I said, snow is tiny little ice crystals, and it's nice and soft. Super fun to play in, might I add. Play? Zoran exclaimed. Can we go play in the snow? I thought you were too tired, and that all your energy had left you, Cinder teased. After all, you can't play without energy. I think the concept of play has woken him up, Spyro chuckled. Yeah, I want to play. I want to go see snow, Zoran shouted, bouncing up and down on top of Spyro's back. Hold on, Zoran. You three still haven't eaten yet, Spyro said. And you know you can't play without eating. Yeah, 'cause food gives us energy, Zoran exclaimed. When do you not have energy? Corey scoffed, rolling his eyes. I don't know. Come on, guys. Go sit down at the table, Spyro said, dropping down on his belly so his kids could get off him safely. Wajdra, Corey, and Zoran leapt off their father's back, running back to the table and sitting down at it, waiting eagerly for the pancakes that Cinder was preparing. Cute and innocent smiles on their faces. Spyro's heart melted at seeing his kids smile like that. Zoran was loud and boisterous. Corey was quiet and shy, and Wajdra was the more responsible one, being the oldest, but all three of them still wore the same wide, fun-loving smiles as they waited for their food, excited for the first time playing in the snow. Spyro helped Cinder plate up the pancakes, giving everyone some berries and syrup to go with it. They all sat down at the table, thanked the ancestors, and ate. Spyro smiled, watching his kids eat happily, relishing the taste of the sweet delicacy. He turned to Cinder, sighing. It's been about 5 years since it last snowed. It feels good to see it again, he said. I agree, Cinder replied. I can't wait to see our kids play in the snow. I remember our first time playing in the snow, not including Dante's freezer, of course. Of course not. That wasn't play. But when we went to visit Hunter and Avalar and saw the whole valley white with snow, ancestors, that was the most beautiful thing ever, Spyro recalled before coughing and quickly recovering. Apart from you, of course. Thanks, Spyro, Cinder said lovingly before she leaned towards Spyro, locking her lips with his. Mummy, We're right here, you know, Wager complained, screwing up her face in disgust at watching her parents kiss. Cinder reluctantly pulled away, trying to hide the smile threatening to show. Spyro, however, couldn't suppress his chuckle. Better listen to the kids, Cinder. They're the boss, Spyro joked. Don't encourage them, Spyro, Cinder deadpan. Plus, they'll be kissing away with their own mate someday. No, we will not, Mummy. Corey groaned through his mouth full of food. Corey's definitive attitude towards the topic caused Cinder to laugh, and it was there that the conversation was dropped. They all finished their food, put their plates in the sink, ready for the washing, before all three kids started getting restless, wanting desperately to go outside into the snow. Can we go? Can we go? Can we go? Daddy, please! Can we go into the snow now? Zoran asked, bouncing up and down. Only if your siblings are ready, Spyro chuckled. Yes, we're ready, Rager and Corey said at the same time. Alright then, let's go, Cinder said. Spyro and Cinder walked out of the house, their children following. Careful, it's cold, Spyro chuckled as he walked under the snow, recoiling at the initial freeze. The three kids blinked, taking a cautious step out, one at a time, all having the same reaction as each other as they recoiled with a shiver. Spyro and Cinder just chuckled, watching their care as they tried to discern whether it was okay to walk into the snow. It's alright, guys. It's only just a little cold, Spyro said with a smile. You'll get used to it. See? Mum and I are fine. Okay, Dad, Zoran mumbled before he leapt into the air, landing with all four paws into the snow. It was deep for the little kid, getting his whole paw and ankle submerged in the snow, but he smiled. Despite the cold, he really enjoyed it. He turned back to his brother and sister, eyes wide and small, rounded teeth showing as he beamed with joy and excitement. Come on, guys, it's fun! Come out here and play, he exclaimed. Rager just rolled her eyes before she finally made a step into the snow. She almost tripped as she stepped down the stair and into the snow, which was pretty deep for the little 3-year-old. She made her way over to Zoran before she began laughing triumphantly that she was finally in the snow. Slowly and carefully, Corey made his way over to his siblings as well, shivering slightly at the cold temperatures of the snow. Spyro and Cinder smiled as they watched their kids help each other get out into the snow, helping each other out. Corey had almost fallen flat on his face while walking through the snow towards the rest of his family, and Zoran, despite being the smallest, had rushed forward to the snow and caught him before he hit the ground. You three alright? Cinder asked. We made it! Wager exclaimed, feeling proud of herself for walking in snow for the first time. It's cold, Corey complained. You'll warm up once you start playing, Corey. I know your dad and I always did when we played in the snow, Cinder replied. So, what do you play in the snow? Zoran asked, ready to play some games. The common game to play is snowball fights, Spyro explained, sitting down as he began to pick up a pot full of snow, rolling it into a firm ball. You roll it into a ball like this. Not too big, because you don't want to hurt people, but also not too small, because otherwise it can melt in your paws. Then you throw it at your opponents. With that, Spyro turned and threw the snowball at Cinder, who let out a yelp as she flared out her wings in front of her face to protect her. She reacted too late, however, and the snowball landed with a splat in her face. Cinder spluttered, taking a few seconds to register what had happened, as she wiped the snow off her closed eyelids before she began laughing. Spyro chuckled at Cinder's reaction before he got a snowball in the face too. It hadn't come from Cinder, but from Zoran. When Spyro looked down at Zoran, the little yellow dragon gave the most innocent smile he could give, giggling happily. Gang up on Daddy! Waja hollered, grabbing her own pawful of snow and throwing it at her father. Hey! Spyro protested as he dodged the snowball, but Zoran threw another snowball at this time, aimed right at Spyro's mouth. Spyro coughed as the snowball hit the roof of his mouth, sending cold snow spraying all through it, causing him to splutter distinctly. Corey was the next one to throw a snowball, but his aim was off and it hit Spyro on the shoulder. The great purple dragon just chuckled as he began to play with his kids in the snow, dodging some snowballs and getting hit by others. Whether it be on purpose or by accident, his kids just hollered joyfully as they chased their father around in circles, throwing snowballs at him. To add to the fun, Spyro dug his paw into the snow and pushed out, spraying snow all over his kids. They all protested loudly, but chuckled as they shook the snow off each other before continuing to assault their father with a storm of snowballs. The purple dragon was suddenly down to the ground as a massive snowball slammed into the side of his head, exploding into a huge cloud of snow. He coughed, looking up and seeing Cinder sitting a few meters away, another snowball in her paw, ready to throw. It was massive. Cinder, are you seriously ganging up on me too? Spyro questioned. Wouldn't be the first time, Cinder chuckled. Spyro felt a heavy weight on him as all three kids jumped on top of him, laughing as they climbed all over him and pinned him to the ground. Spyro started laughing too. Ah, you got me, you win, Spyro announced dramatically, but his kids didn't get off him. Ah, help me, Cinder, help me. I think I'd much rather watch you lose a game to our kids, Cinder chuckled. Spyro just rolled his eyes and scoffed. His kids continued climbing on his chest for a little longer before Cinder finally told them to get off, allowing Spyro to get back up. That was fun. I like snowballs, Zoran exclaimed happily. Yeah, the snow is fun, Corey replied, smiling. I want to keep playing. There you go, Raedra shouted as she threw a snowball at Zoran, knocking him to the ground. He gave a laugh, picking himself back up before the three younglings began to throw snowballs at each other. Spyro moved back and sat down, watching them play and squabble in the snow, kicking large amounts of it in the air as they dodged snowballs and wrestled in the soft white covering. I'm so happy to see them having so much fun, Spyro said to Cinder as she sat down beside him. It's great. I remember how much fun it was to play in the snow at the age of 17 when we went to Avalar. Imagine how exciting it is for 3-year-olds, especially those who haven't seen it before. Because we definitely had seen it by the time we first played in it. Due to Dante's freezer, Cinder replied with a chuckle. Spyro just mumbled in agreement, his attention still glued to his kids. Ancestors. I love them so much. There's nothing I wouldn't do for them, the purple dragon said with a smile, a tear springing in his eye. I never thought I'd ever end up raising a family, especially not during the war. I'm so thankful I've got one. I never thought I was worthy for one, Cinder said. But I guess you proved me wrong, Spyro. I love the family I have. Thank you, Spyro. I love you. I love you too. Spyro leaned in to kiss Cinder, but she dodged him slyly, leaving him hanging, a look of disappointment on his face. Remember, Spyro? The kids don't want us kissing, Cinder said with a giggle. The purple dragon just sighed, rolling his eyes and shaking his head, turning back to look at his kids. It was the perfect distraction, because as Cinder decided to turn back to the kids too, Spyro quickly turned and gave Cinder a quick peck on the lips, chuckling as he retreated speedily back to his original position. You're sneaky, you know that? Cinder exclaimed. Yeah, I do, Spyro said, raising an eyebrow and causing Cinder just to roll her eyes before they turned their attention back to their kids. They were all wrestling in the snow, kicking the white covering everywhere. Corey was underneath the other two as they tried to pin him down, shouting at the top of their lungs. Get off me, Corey complained. Not if you keep aiming at our faces, Zoran growled playfully. Yeah, you gotta play fair, Raedra added. You threw snowballs at Daddy's face, Corey argued. That was Daddy. He's different, Raedra growled. Corey let out a growl as he thrashed about underneath Zoran and Raedra, trying to throw them off him so he could get up. After a bit of a struggle, he got little Zoran off him, allowing him to half stand up. Raedra was clinging on his neck, hanging half off him as her legs dragged in the snow, while Corey tried to shake her off him. Zoran had recovered by this point and ran into Corey, knocking him over as the two flew over the top of Raedra. The two boys wrestled around for a bit, and Spyro noticed it was starting to get a little rough, especially as Corey had landed with a heavy smack on the ground from Zoran running into him. Come on, guys, break it up. That's enough for now, Spyro said sternly as he stepped forward. But we were playing, Zoran complained. It was starting to get rough, and I don't want anyone to get hurt, Spyro explained. Corey looked like he had a heart hit. Are you alright? I'm fine, Corey muttered as he stood up, shaking his head. He wasn't wounded as far as Spyro could tell, but Spyro knew that the little Earth Dragon had to be hurting. Sorry, Corey, Zoran apologized, hanging his head low. Corey muttered a small thank you as he sat down, holding the left side of his head with his left paw. Spyro sighed. He wanted his kids to have fun in the snow. Spyro himself loved it, and wanting his kids to enjoy it too, but now Corey had been hurt, and they barely spent 30 minutes out here. I have an idea, Cinder piped up as she walked forward, noticing Spyro's disappointment. What if you created a snowball? A snowball? What's that? Raedra questioned, tilting her head. Spyro stepped back with a newfound smile as Cinder took over the explanation. First of all, you want to roll up a base. she said, scooping together a bunch of snow and putting it together before rolling it along the ground to gather more snow, making the snowball bigger. She scaled it down to the size of her kids, however, so it really wasn't too big. Once it's big enough, you can make a second one, but slightly smaller, and put it on top. Then you do it a third time, again slightly smaller, and put it on top. Waja, Corey, and Zoran watched with awe as Cinder made the 3 snowballs, stacking them on top of each other, the largest at the bottom and the smallest on top. When she finished stacking them, Zoran gave out an astonished gasp. "Just wait, it's not finished yet," Cinder said before raising her claw and drawing a face into the smallest snowball on top of the pile. She then grabbed 2 nearby sticks and put them either side of the middle-sized snowball to act like arms. She stepped back with a smile. "Ta-da!" she exclaimed, and her kids were astonished. "I didn't know you can make this cool stuff with snow," Corey breathed. "You can make whatever you want," Cinder said. "You can even draw in the snow if you want to make something that way." "Drawing?" Raja said with excitement. "Yes, Raja, you can draw in the snow," Spyro chuckled, knowing how much his daughter liked drawing. Raja gave an excited giggle before she sat down a few meters away from her brother while she began drawing in the snow. Corey and Zoran immediately went to work on rolling up large snowballs to make some snow molds to go with the one Cinder had just made. Cinder walked back to Spyro's side as her kids became preoccupied with their tasks ahead of them. "Do you want to make a snow mold together, Spyro? Just like old times?" she asked. "Of course," Spyro said with a smile. "We'll make the biggest one, just like we used to. We used to always destroy Zariva, Donrith, Laritcha, and Virador in those snow mold competitions we always had. We don't want to show off too much to our kids, do we?" Cinder questioned with a slight tone of concern in her voice. "It's not showing off if it's just for fun, is it? Plus, we are several times their size." "Oh, alright. Let's try for the biggest we've ever done." They shared a quick kiss before they got to work, turning around and beginning to make their own separate snowballs, rolling them around until they got bigger and bigger. Once they were decent size, Spyro and Cinder turned around and pushed the snowballs into each other, combining them into one massive snowball before rolling it around even more to make it even bigger. Once they were finished, the snowball was already up to their chests. They got to work on their second snowball, and when they finished that one and hoisted it up on top of the second one, the snow mole was already up to their jawlines. They heard the gasps from their kids as they worked away, but they ignored them, staying focused and showing their kids how teamwork should be done. Working together to create the head of the snow mole and putting it on top of the pile, requiring to fly to do so. They put the head on before Spyro started drawing the face on, and Cinder grabbed some large branches, sticking them inside the torso of the snow mole. When they were done, they stood back with a large smile. Their kids were silent as they looked at the massive snow mole. "Think we beat our last one?" Spyro questioned, Cinder who nodded in turn. "It's taller than us, and we've grown since the last time it snowed," she chuckled. "That is amazing!" Zoran screamed, jumping up and down. "You really think so?" Cinder asked softly. "It's so big! Teach us how to make one that big!" Zoran shouted. "Calm down, Zoran," Spyro chuckled, putting a gentle paw in front of him to calm him down. "And we'll someday, maybe when you've grown? We're a lot bigger than you 3 are, and learning to fly helps a lot. So when we're bigger and can fly, we can make a snowball that size?" Raja asked. "Bigger than that," Cinder said with a smile. "I guarantee it." "Cool," Corey said with awe. "Anyway, how are your snow moles going?" Spyro asked, looking behind his kids at their artwork. Their snow moles were pretty crooked and sloppy, but Spyro expected that, with it being the first time they had ever made snow moles, and they were trying to handle the large snowballs that were pretty big for their size. They also didn't know how to fly yet, so being grounded made it trickier for them as well. For the resources and strength the 2 3-year-olds had, they were pretty well done. "They look great," Spyro said with a loving smile. "You really think so, Daddy?" Corey asked. "Of course I do. They're amazing." "You should be proud of yourself, boys," Cinder added, kissing each of the boys on the forehead. Zoran recoiled with a disgusted groan, wiping his forehead frantically and causing Cinder to chuckle. "How's your drawing going, honey?" Spyro asked Raja, who had moved back to her drawing, while Spyro and Cinder were looking at Corey and Zoran's snow moles. "I'm almost finished," Rajan replied, drawing a few final swirls in the snow before she lifted her claw out with a confident, "Done?" "Alright, let's have a look," Cinder said. Spyro and Cinder walked over to Rajan, standing behind the wooden dragon as they looked down in the snow at her artwork. She had drawn 5 dragons, all with their rings spread out over each other. Two large dragons stood on the two farther sides, while the middle was taken up by three tiny dragons. "That's you, Mommy, and that's you, Daddy," Wager explained confidently, pointing to the figures on the left and right respectively. "And in the middle is me, Corey, and Zoran." The proud father felt a tear spring in his eye. The lines were true, being drawn by a 3-year-old, but the action was what mattered. Raja had drawn their whole family, wings drawn protectively around each other in a group of support, a large smile on each of the dragons' faces. The faces were simple, just 2 dots and a curved line for a smile, and the horns were long lines, as were the rest of the limbs, as the dragons were just stick figures. The stick figures didn't matter though. Seeing his daughter so into drawing, especially drawing them as a close family, made Spyro's heart swell with emotion. I love it," Spyro said, choking on his tears. Are you okay, Daddy?" Raja asked as Cinder put a wing around Spyro. "Well, why are you sad?" I'm not sad, darling," Spyro choked, beaming with joy. "These are tears of joy. I'm so happy right now." Then why are you crying?" Corey questioned. "I thought people only cried when they were sad." "You can cry with happiness too, Corey," Cinder explained. "Your father is also a pretty emotional dragon. He's been through a lot in his life. He and I both have." Spyro smiled at Cinder, noticing she was holding back tears too. She was doing a better job than he was, but then again, she had more practice in suppressing her emotions, and he figured that was a good thing. He didn't know what their kids would do if both their parents were breaking down in front of them, even if it was all out of happiness. Thank you so much, Wager," Spyro said as he calmed himself down. Wager just gave her father the most beautiful, innocent smile he had ever seen, before she walked forward and hugged his leg, nuzzling it lovingly. Spyro lowered his head, nuzzling Wager back. She started laughing. "Dad, you're tickling me," Wager squealed. Spyro chuckled as he lifted his head up, allowing Wager to step back. He sighed, wiping his eyes, before leaning forward and nuzzling Cinder. Afterwards, he lowered his head and nuzzled his 2 sons. "I couldn't ask for a better family," Spyro sighed, raising his head up and looking over his whole family. "Thank you all." The happy moment only lasted a bit before Corey let out a violent sneeze, causing him to stumble backwards and land flat on his rear. "Oh no, we'd better get back inside," Cinder giggled. "Aw, why? I'm having fun," Zoran complained. "It's cold and it's snowy, which makes it even colder," Spyro explained. "You can get sick from staying out in the cold for too long. Now come on, we better go inside and warm up." "Okay," Corey said, before he sneezed again. With that, Spyro and Cinder took their kids back home, going back inside and shutting the door behind them. Almost immediately, Spyro lit up the fireplace with a bright orange fire, causing heat to flow throughout the house. "That's nice," Raja sighed as she laid down in front of the fireplace. "Careful now, don't want to get too close to the fire, or you'll burn yourself," Cinder warned. I know, I'll be careful." Even after this comment, Cinder walked forward and pulled Raja a little further away from the fireplace, but brought her closer to her dark scales as she provided her own body heat to help warm the little wind dragoness up. Raja yawned before she fell asleep, wrecked from the busy morning in the snow. Meanwhile, Corey and Zoran sat with their father, all 3 of them looking into the crackling fireplace. "Daddy, you're so cool," Zoran said. "You can make that massive snow mole, and your fire is so amazing. I want to learn how to do that." "Unfortunately, son, you're an electric dragon. You can't make the fire the way I did it, but electricity is a cool element too, and I also have it. I can help teach you when you come of age to learn," Spyro explained. "Yes, please," Spyro chuckled before he turned to Corey. "I can also teach you Earth, Corey," he offered. "Yes, please, Dad. Thank you," Corey said with a sniffle, recovering from the 2 violent sneezes he had earlier, before succumbing to a massive yawn. The purple dragon looked over at Raja, who was fast asleep in her mother's paws. Spyro let out a chuckle. "I think your sister has the right idea, you two," Spyro said sternly. "After all, you were all up past midnight." "Aw, I thought you'd forgotten about that," Zoran moaned. "Nope. Come on, you two had better get some sleep." "I don't want to get up, though." "You don't have to. You can sleep by my side if you want," Spyro suggested. "Thank you, Daddy." Corey yawned as he stepped over Spyro's large paw, curling himself up against his father's chest. Zoran did the same thing, and before long, they were both asleep, just like their sister. "Sweet dreams, little ones," Spyro whispered, kissing his sons on the forehead, knowing he wouldn't get any complaints. "I love you, and thanks for the great day in the snow." "Well, hope this was a nice change. Something cute from me for once. Unheard of. Anyways, this was fun to write. And it was nice trying something a lot more lighthearted, because all my main stories are pretty dark, lol. There was also written for another story prompt of the Spyro Discord server I'm in, and this time the prompt was playing in the snow, so that one obviously had to be a cute one, lol. Once more, Mystic ODTDH beta read this, and he did a great job at it. Hope you all enjoyed the 2 one-shots I wrote for the fan write event, and there will definitely be more soon. These have been fun little writing exercises, especially this one. See you all later. Well, that was good.